All right, welcome to the Detroit Lions News Podcast. This is a season preview on the Detroit Lions News Podcast. I'm with my guest, Nate. And now last week, Nate, we were doing this whole mumbo jumbo, man. And what happened last
Craziness
week,
happened, man.
the power went out. It just went into a whole. It went crazy. But we're back. We're gonna be doing some good stuff today. It's gonna be fun to break this down with you, Nate, and we're gonna break that down. Let's
do this, man.
Let's hit the music and then let's go. All right, welcome to the Detroit Lions News Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Chapp. We have the season preview today. Tyler isn't able to make it with us. Mayank, he said he would join maybe, but he had some things to do. So I'm with Nate, and Nate, last week, we just said it. There was a power outage, and the things went haywire. But we are on track for good things this week, and we are ready to go because Sunday is the big day.
Yes, sir. Sure
now,
is.
if you're watching it in the comments, you could leave your comments to anything we talk about on the podcast. And if you want to listen to the podcast and you want to go back and listen to it, you can hit this link tree, which I'm trying to find. Oh, right here. This link tree, you can follow all our stuff on any channel you want. They'll take you to the link tree and we'll podcast, whatever. You'll be good. So this is the season preview. This is a big episode because a lot of people are looking forward to the 2024 season. There's a lot of high expectations. And Nate, I don't know if you know this, but I'm on a roll right now. I've got the record for the Lions every year, right? Since Matt Patricia left. Now the tie, people talk about the tie. I got the wins right. I didn't get the tie right because that's my little caveat. But we're here. We're talking football, and it's gonna be fun to talk football with you. So,
yeah, man.
Obviously, I don't know if you know, but the way the season preview usually goes is just like kind of like free flowing. So we'll get to it. But yeah,
let's go.
All right. So obviously today the Detroit Lions practice. DJ Reader did practice. I think limited was. Let me pull it up.
They actually were all limited. DJ was limited, Strickland was limited, and Iffy was limited.
I'm trying to pull it. I thought DJ was full.
I think he was limited.
Oh, he was limited, yeah. So Iffy Melifonwu was limited as well. And then Lawrence Strickland was no practice with a thumb injury. So
he's okay. I thought he had limited too. Okay,
yeah, so
no practice.
That was the practice report, and there's a lot of we're going to be talking about stuff as we go along, but this is a season preview pod. And then at the end of this podcast, we'll preview the Rams game, me and you, and then we'll go on and the podcast like that. So obviously, is there anything you got to say before we start?
Oh, just ready for the season to start. I mean, I think that the Lions are at the highest level of hype mode that you can get. I mean, every big news broadcast has talked about the Lions winning the Super Bowl, getting to the Super Bowl. Like, this is uncharted territory as Lion fans. It's kind of brings a little angst because we want to be in the Super Bowl. We want to win a Super Bowl. Like, all the pieces are there. The question is it going to happen? That's all we need to know.
So the one thing I want to ask is, obviously, before we start this podcast, like, we know that, like, me and you know that there are issues that could arise that we don't really know too much about. But if there's an issue that you have with this team, come this season, what's the main issue you have with this team right now? Just to
the main issue I have is the health of the O-line. Like, the O-line is the engine that makes everything go. Like, you invest a lot of money, a lot of draft capital in that O-line, and they've got to produce. And unfortunately for the Lions in the past, we've had these great talks about how this line is amazing, but they haven't been together for very long. And you add a new piece in Kevin Ziegler, but the reality is you have three guys over 30. So, if there's an injury sustained, these guys might take a little longer to come back. So it's very important that this line stays healthy. And the fact is, we don't have a lot of quality depth behind it. It could be tough for the Lions. And, everything is predicated on the line.
Yeah, I think I go in a separate direction. Obviously, I think Hank Fraley is going to get them boys ready to play no matter what. Yeah. My concern, if there's a concern I have, it's the depth at wide receiver. I know they brought in Allen Robinson. I know they brought in Tim Patrick. I know they brought in DPJ back. Isaiah Williams looks like he could be something. But at the end of the day, like, if Amon-Ra or Jameson, one of them has an injury, that could really derail the whole thing. Now, I'm not saying it would derail the whole season. I'm saying, like, that's a big chunk of your offense, especially if it's Amon-Ra. Now, it does help that you have a guy like Sam Laporta. It does help that you have a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs that can catch passes. It does help you have a guy like Brock Wright. That does help. But the number 3 wide receiver position and then down, like, it's unproven. It's unproven territory. We know we can expect out of Khalif, but I don't think that Khalif is like a number 3 wide receiver, if we're going to be totally honest. So it is what it is.
He's going to the game as a 3rd receiver, so we'll see what he does.
Yeah, I think that's what they're saying, but I don't know if he's going to be going into the 3rd game. I think either Tim Patrick or a guy like maybe Allen Robinson gets activated. They put him as a 3rd wide receiver because you got to have a guy that has some size to him. And I know Khalif Raymond does get tons of separation, but at the same time, like, having a guy that has some size, that's huge right there. And the only knock on Khalif Raymond, he's a dog, is his size. That's the only issue he has.
And the thing is, too, is like if they want to use Khalif Raymond in more of a special teams role, like being the punt returner, maybe being the kickoff returner, you got to lessen those snaps on offense, so you don't burn him out. Now, it's going to be interesting. I didn't look at the official depth chart. I kind of glanced at it. I don't know if Isaiah Williams is their kick returner. I didn't see that.
There is no back. Their kick returner is Craig Reynolds. That's what it says on the depth chart.
So it's not even Isaiah Williams.
No, Khalif Raymond's the punt returner.
Okay.
Craig Reynolds is the kick returner, which makes sense because so this new kickoff rule is interesting because I'm wondering how Dave Phipp is going to do things with it, because I heard Dan Quinn on the radio yesterday on SiriusXM, the NFL Network radio, and he was saying that, do you put a guy back there like a wide receiver who's extremely fast? So in our case, it would be Jameson Williams or Khalif Raymond. Or do you put a running back there like a Craig Reynolds, like a Sion Vaki? Because his idea was that it's just like a zone read. So if you're a running back, you're planting once and then you're going where the hole is. And he brought up a guy like Brian Robinson or Austin Eckler taking a kick. And I thought that was very, very interesting for him, what he said. So Craig Reynolds back there has me doing something,
Yeah, I think Craig Reynolds probably would fit that mold better, or Sion Vaki, or even Isaiah Williams, because the fact is they're not huge integral parts of your offense.
Yeah.
You're talking about backups and guys that you're hoping can get some burn inside the game, so you're not putting JMO back there. I know the idea that you want that JMO's speed is unheralded, but the fact is you cannot have somebody going at his knees and legs. Like, that's just the last thing you want. You want this guy on offense in the game with you.
Well, I think there's going to be a situation where that comes into play. Like, if let's say you're down in the 4th quarter, do you put JMO back there? He's a fast guy. If he gets a seam, he's gone. I mean, if it's time to win a game, I think you do it. Like, I thought
I'd be more comfortable putting him in punt coverage, like putting him as a punt returner than a kickoff.
That could be true, but it like I heard I forget who it was, but they were talking about putting Deebo Samuel on kick return if it's late in the game or something, or AJ Brown late in the game, or Saquon Barkley late in the game. Like, some of these, we haven't even hit the apex of what you could do with this kick return rule. So that's what's going to be interesting about this whole thing, because Dan Quinn said it yesterday on Sirius XM radio that this rule is basically good for the running back. So if you're a running back and you get put back there, it's basically zone reads. So I thought that was a very interesting take.
Yeah. The only thing concerns me is like you put a Saquon Barkley back there, he cuts the wrong way, he can really hurt himself, or the players still try to go at him and hit him at the knees. That's an easy way to get out of a game. One of your best players, So I don't want to see anybody back there of high caliber for the Lions, but I get what you're saying. Like if you need a situation where you need some juice or you need a momentum play, yeah, give JMO a chance. But until I start seeing those dudes out there that are big name players that are going out there kicking returns, then I'll say, okay, put JMO out there. But don't volunteer yourself out there until other players have already done it and see how it works.
I guarantee you the first team that's going to do it is going to be the Miami Dolphins with Tyreek Hill.
Probably. They got so much speed. Or they put A-Chain back there. Or they got mad speed at a lot of positions. They can throw anybody out there. It's going to be crazy.
Even that Taj Washington kid it's from USC, he's got some speed to him, and I think he could do it too. So, without further ado, let's get to our season preview on the show. So Lions record. This is what the God, I'm tripping over my words. The Detroit Lions News Podcast admins and Nate. This is the records that we have. I'm on the low end. Nate, you're on the high end. I'm trying to figure out what makes you think that they're gonna go 15-2. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay, all right. So first and foremost, Vegas came out with their odds. And people say, "Oh, it's Vegas." Well, Vegas knows a lot. Okay, there's a reason why the NFL and the betting is all tied together. Okay, yep. So they're not no slouch. They know what they're talking about. Okay, Vegas came out and said that the Lions are favored to win in almost every game. I think there was only maybe 2 games that they weren't favored to win in a game. So I looked at the schedule and I was honest with myself. Okay, first and foremost, let's start with the division. You have the Bears, the Packers, and the Vikings. So start with the Packers. The Packers are a good team. Jordan Love could take that next step forward into being an elite quarterback. He could also regress, because now NFL has tape on him. And on top of that, his best 8 games were with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is no longer a Packer. And I'm sorry, Aaron Jones is not or Josh Jacobs is not Aaron Jones by no means.
Agree 100%.
Yeah, the passing game is going to struggle without Aaron Jones. So you take that aspect away from Jordan Love. Let's see what he does, first and foremost. Then again, you have the defense. Yeah, you bring in a new defensive coordinator, but that doesn't mean nothing. Because you look at Aaron Glenn, who has never been a defensive coordinator, and you see the struggles he's had.
Yeah.
Nobody just comes into the NFL has never been a defensive coordinator and is successful. It's just not possible. It's like a rookie quarterback going to Super Bowl. It's not possible.
No, the one caveat I would say is Hostetler, which is their new DC. He's from Boston College, and they did play a lot. They did play some good defense, and them getting I'm saying, you see a lot of college coaches make an easy transition to the NFL. And it does help that he comes into a situation that is way better than what Aaron Glenn inherited with Detroit.
Yeah, he's got some pieces there. There's no doubt.
You got Rashawn Gary. You got Rashawn Gary. You got Kenny Clark, which is you start up front with those 2, and then you add in a Preston Smith. You add in a Van Ness. That's a pretty good start to you having a defense. Yeah. And then you go to the backfield. You got Jari Alexander, who's kind of been a little bit of a head case, but he's a good corner. Eric Stokes has been hit or miss, but you got Xavier McKinney, and that safety group is pretty damn good. So I think if you're,
you've got pieces. You've got pieces. I agree with you.
I think if you're a defensive coordinator, like coming into that situation, it's easier to do what Hostetler is going to have to do compared to think about it like this: Aaron Glenn came into the Lions and he had 0 talent, so that was a lot harder of a situation to like maintain. And even last year, I told people last year, like when they were talking about Aaron Glenn, they were saying Aaron Glenn, he's not a great coach or whatever. I go, do you see the talent on defense?
Right. No, I agree.
Yeah.
But we're talking about like, the skills from college to the NFL. It's going to be interesting because you're going to kind of see how good this defensive coordinator is right off the bat. Because he's going against Saquon Barkley, he's going against Jalen Hurts, he's going against Devontae Smith, he's going against AJ Brown. He's going to get a good dosage of a good offense right off the bat. And I guarantee you, Packer fans, if they get sliced like cheese, like they always do, they're going to be complaining about it. And so we'll see. But
hey, they're first up. We're gonna see them right front and center.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly, so, right there. But
they got to go. They got to go against the Eagles' offense, which I think is still going to be good. Obviously,
sure.
Before the show, you were talking about Jason Kelce and them missing Jason Kelce. We'll see. That's the intriguing part about Friday's game is those two teams, because I think that they're questionable on both fronts. Like, what are the Eagles without Kelce? I still think they're going to be pretty good. And then you got the Packers. Like, I know Jordan Love had that great end of the season. Okay, I know he did, and I'm not poo-pooing it. I'm not saying that I don't trust it, but I got to see a full season. Sure. So when you have a guy like Jordan Love, who, everyone forgets that he had a clunker against New York Giants, which was terrible. I mean, that's just the way it is. And the Eagles, they have a lot to prove too. And Sirianni, I would say he's on the hot seat. So right off the hot, you're going to learn a lot about these two teams in conjunction, and you're going to be like, okay, maybe the Packers aren't as good, maybe the Eagles aren't as good, and that's the way
I will say this: the zone read with Saquon Barkley and Hurts is scary. It's almost as scary as Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, which we'll see the game before that. Two of the biggest zone read quarterbacks with their running backs that are stellar. That's going to be interesting to see what happens in that situation. But kind of going back to what we're talking about the division. So the Packers, yes, they're better, but they're not better than the Lions.
Right.
The Bears have a rookie quarterback. Listen, I don't care if you have Jerry Rice as a receiver out there. If your quarterback can't throw the ball consistently and make accurate passes, it doesn't matter how many good receivers you have. Okay? The Lions had Calvin for the longest time. We had shitty quarterbacks. It happens, And then you got the Vikings. The Vikings, that's enough right there. They're not going to do well. Okay, they're in a rebuild situation. They're probably they're waiting for JJ for next year. So what I'm alluding to is right there off the division, it's 6-0. And I've already gone on record on your show and said we're going to sweep the North. Because the Lions want to do what they want to do and get to where they want to get to, which is the Super Bowl in New Orleans, and win it. They have to sweep the division and win the North. Simple as that. Make the statement when you take advantage of inferior competition.
Well, here's where I kind of differ. I think that they're not going to sweep the division at all. I think they're going to go.
A lot of people feel the same way.
I think they're going to go. They're going to go 4-2. I think they sweep the Vikings. I think they lose to the Packers once. I think at Lambeau. I think they lose to the Bears at Soldier Field, just because of the timing of the schedule. Like, there's a look-ahead game. There's kind of that little portion of the schedule where you go, okay, this could be a game where if they're not focused, they could lose this game.
Sure.
The Vikings, I don't have a really good view on them. I still think they're a good team. I think the Lions could go 3-3 or 4-2 in the division, depending on what the Vikings look like, because I do think this is going to be the toughest division in football, no matter what. Aside from the AFC North, which is a tremendous division, I think that every team in that division is going to be towards the playoffs. This is going to be an interesting one from, the NFC North perspective, because I think the Bears are going to be good. They got too much talent not to be good. I think the Packers are going to be good because they have a lot of talent too. And even though the Vikings do not have a quarterback, I still think that they can creep up on teams and sneak in win games. Like, that first game with the Vikings is going to tell us a lot about the Vikings, because if they lose to the Giants, oh boy, you see that schedule and the teams that are on that schedule, and you're like, it might be good night already for that.
Yeah, I think Viking fans needs to be open to the idea that it's going to be a rough season. Just the fact is, Darnold's going to get you some wins, but it's not going to be a lot. They've got a lot of holes in that team and a lot of issues that they're dealing with and stuff like that. But back to the Bears real quick. Listen, here's the thing with the Bears. The two things that killed us against the Bears was the running quarterback. Oh, you there,
I'm
Joe?
here. I'm
Okay.
here.
The running quarterback, who was Justin Fields, and the defense. So let's start with the defense first. This defense is very good for the Bears. There is no doubt in my mind. If I say there's the best defense in the North right now is the Bears. However, it's up to Goff to protect the football. If Goff protects the football, then the Bears defense is not as good as they're advertised. Because a lot of the miscues were Goff's fault. The fumbles, the interceptions, the bad throws. Like, those are mistakes that we can clean up.
Oh, yeah.
Go to the run. Now go to the offensive side. Really, the Bears did not do anything different other than just run the football down our throats with their quarterback. Well, like I said on my podcast, Caleb Williams is not Justin Fields when it comes to running. Justin Fields is a straight line runner. He runs and goes. He runs straight. Caleb is going to run out of the pocket, go east or west, or even go backwards. He's not a straight line runner. So that is an advantage to Detroit's defense because Detroit is a lot quicker on the edges now. And also their linebackers are a lot faster. So go ahead and run sideways. Hell, even run backwards if you want to. I'll take that all day. So that's why I'm not worried about the Bears from an offensive standpoint because I think he's a rookie. He's still going to have to get better. And the only advantage they really have is that they play us late in the season. So maybe he might have figured it out then. But I'm not fearing Caleb Williams. I just don't. I think he's a talent. I think he's got skill. But I don't think he's a really good thrower from the pocket. And I don't think he's a very smart runner when it comes to getting out of the pocket. He likes to improvise and throw off platform, and that is bad news Bears, no pun intended, for Bear fans because you don't want your quarterback doing that stuff. You've got to be able to throw from the pocket. You've got to keep your feet set, and you've got to be accurate. And I think that he's got a long way to go from that.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I have told people that I know that are Bears fans that I think that the best rookie that's going to win Rookie of the Year this year is Jaden Daniels.
Probably because he's a pocket passer. He actually can throw from the pocket.
I don't even think it's Caleb, but the one thing I do like about Jaden Daniels the most is he's such a at LSU, man. Like he made some smooth throws while getting pressured. He can take off. He's a very good runner. The thing I have an issue with Caleb Williams about, and I don't know if you have the same issue, but one of the issues I have with Caleb is when he gets pressured. When he gets pressured, that is a very bad situation because he likes to throw balls up. He likes to, especially when the USC was playing those physical defenses like Utah. Notre Dame, Oregon. Like he struggled very, very badly, like very badly. And it was kind of like, is this guy really the number one overall pick? I know people are still hyping him up as, the guy who, like people compared him to Patrick Mahomes. I think that's way too early. But
Patrick Mahomes can throw from the pocket.
Right. Simple as that. What the thing about Caleb Williams is I just think that he's too much of a risky thrower, especially when he's pressured. Like you're not going to win like that. Like we see a guy like who had that same issue was Trevor Lawrence. And what has happened to Trevor Lawrence? He hasn't been as good because he turns over the ball a lot. And that's the issue. Now, if you're Josh Allen and you turn over the ball a lot, but you are just an animal and you are a freakazoid, fine. Turn over the ball because I know you're going to give me 3 touchdowns by yourself, whether it's passing or running. Like he's an animal. But a guy like it's like the same thing we have with Lamar Jackson. Like Lamar Jackson, like he's a great runner. A great runner. Like there is
he's become a better passer, but he's still not as accurate as he should be.
Yeah, we seen in the AFC Championship game when they said you're not going to beat us running. We're going to blitz you all day and keep you in that pocket.
Miss easy throws. Right.
So that's how it goes.
And one thing I want to bring up that you brought up a great point is all those quarterbacks you mentioned, like Jackson, Lawrence, Allen, Caleb. what do they all have in common? They all played in spread offenses. They did not really play under center. And
Yep.
people don't understand that if a quarterback wants to be successful in the NFL, you have to play under center and you have to be able to throw from the pocket. And I'm not saying Caleb can't do that. I'm just saying that he needs a lot of refinement on that. And I think that the Lions can definitely take advantage of that, because all you got to do is just push him out of the pocket. And like I said, he's not a Justin Fields run straight runner. He's going to run sideways. He's going to run backwards. He's going to try to outrun the linebacker. Like, he's going to try to be improvising all the situations, and it's going to get him in trouble, because that's just his instincts as a quarterback. That's what he's learned and taught to do. When things break down, you run. You don't stay in the pocket. You don't look at your progressions. You don't step up. You run, and that's why it's going to be a growing pains for him early on. Like, simple as that.
It's funny that you bring up the transition to under center, because I talked to a quarterback before who didn't plan out in the league by any stretch. He came from a spread offense. He came to the NFL. He was very ill prepared for the transition to under center. I know that there's a lot of shotgun in the NFL now, but you still have to be under center for a lot of things. And one of the hardest transitions that he said he had wasn't making reads or nothing like that. It was being under center. And that is an issue. It's one of the harder transitions to do, because you're not in the shotgun. You're not just handing it off. You gotta be in timing with your running back when you hand the ball off in the run game. Pass game, you got to have your steps right, or else you're gonna get yourself killed. Those are types of things that happen. So you're right about that.
Another thing too, I'll throw in there is, when you're behind center, you have to be better at pre-snaps, because you're behind bigger dudes like 6'8", 6'7" uglies that you're protecting you, or D-line guys. So you have to be a taller, and you have to be able to see over the defense and read what the defense is doing right before the snap happens, to call protections, call certain blitzes that are coming your way. Like, and I just think that's going to be a little too much for Caleb right off the bat. I think it's going to be a struggle, which it is. Every rookie quarterback goes through it. There's no difference. That's why I say Bears need to temper their expectations, because it's going to take a minute for him to figure it out. It's just the way it is.
So the rest of ththese guys, they had 13-4, which is that's doable. I could see that too. You have 15-2. I have 12-5. Obviously,
do you want to know my two losses are?
Who?
The Texans and the Cowboys.
Oh, hell no. They are not losing the Cowboys. I'm
telling you, man, Jerry Jones has something aura in that stadium where they just screw the Lions all the time. It goes back to the playoff game.
Let's bring up our tough matchups then, because so the toughest games, according to the guys from the Detroit Lions News podcast, Tyler has the Colts, which he's a sicko Colts fan. Like he's a sicko Colts fan. He has family in Indianapolis.
If we lose to the Colts, we got problems.
Right. I don't know what he's talking about. 49ers, obviously that's a tough game. Obviously, me and Mayank, and we have it too. Nathan, you have Dallas and Houston, which the two Texans teams, which you're from Texas, so this kind of makes some sense. But Mayank picked the Seahawks because he fears the Seahawks more than anything, because
they've always been our Achilles heel. There's no doubt.
That is true, but I fear the Eagles. Not the Eagles. I don't know why it's on there, but my toughest game was Texans too. Yeah. I don't know why the Eagles. I think that might have been what the biggest threat to NFC, but I kind of screwed up that graphic. But why do you think the Colts are? Not the Colts. The Cowboys are.
Well,
one of the tougher games.
Okay, so when we look at that Cowboys game that we played the last time, we were doing really well. What the turning point of that game was where Barnes decided not to tackle Dak, and that led to a huge touchdown by CD Lamb. And a Kendall Vildor was nowhere to be found. So, but for me, it's just more the fact is that just crazy stuff happens in Jerry's world with the Lions.
I know.
Like the Pettigrew, no call. You had the ineligible lineman bullshit. Like, I'm just saying that Jerry has ways of doing things his way, and I just think that the Lions, it's like their kryptonite. I don't know what it is. They just struggle playing in Dallas, because I've been to Dallas games where they played the Lions, and the Lions have been in games, but they find a way to screw it up at the end.
Yeah, or some
You know,
crazy thing. I think
or something crazy happens. Yeah. And
like
then the Texans speak for itself. I mean, Texans are
that
a
game,
loaded team.
is gonna be hyped because when we get to later in the podcast, you're gonna find out why I think that's a huge game implications wise. But
I think I know where you're going with it.
I think that the Cowboys, I think they're gonna take a step back this year. I really do. I think when you have a Zeke Elliott as your running back and Dalvin Cook, I don't know what you're trying to do, if you're trying to have a retirement home at the running back position or what you're trying to do. Like, I know they think about the Rico Dottle guy, whatever the hell his name is, Uncle Rico. I think he could be a running back too. All right, whatever. But the reality of the situation is Dak needs a run game. Yeah. He is not this quarterback that doesn't need a run game. Like, if you told me that Josh Allen doesn't have a running back, I'd be like, all right. Lamar Jackson doesn't have a running back. All right. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have a running back. All right. There's certain guys in this league that they don't need a run back. Like, they really don't. Like, they're so good that they could just, do it by themselves. And part of the reason is because they're mobile quarterbacks. But Dak, he needs a run game. He loves to play action. He loves to make big plays off the play action. And when he doesn't have that play action, what's going to happen? Like, what's going to happen?
Yeah. And another thing, too, about the Cowboys that people don't like to admit is, yes, Dan Quinn's gone, but that defense is still good.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Trayvon Diggs in the backfield. You've got Micah Parsons raising havoc on your tackles. You've got Lexter Lawrence on one side. You've got their big, I forgot his name. Uzi inside, who's a killer inside. You got some good linebackers, Kendricks. So that defense is very aggressive and very good. And again, the thing that worries me the most with Goff is when he goes against these aggressive defenses, because they usually get manhandled on the line and their receivers get jammed a lot. And so Goff has to put the ball in situations where it either the pick or he gets sacked. And so, those kind of defenses worry me with Goff, because he's not a mobile dude. He's a guy that he has to have a clean pocket. If he doesn't have a clean pocket, all hell's going to break loose.
Right.
And so that's another reason why, too, Dallas fears me, because the defense is still good. Like, this defense is not going to be bad. In fact, this defense will probably carry the offense for a good minute. But I still think the Cowboys can put up a lot of points. I mean, CeeDee Lamb's a stud. You got Ferguson, that big-ass tight end from Wisconsin, who's good.
I love Ferguson, yeah.
Yeah, Tolbert, I think, is going to have a big year for them. Cooks is there. You've still got a loaded offense, and if Zeke Elliott even has any rebirth of any kind, watch out, So we'll see. That's
I can see where you're coming from. I just think that Dallas is going to take a step back. I'll get to that later in the podcast. People are, especially the Cowboy fans, they're going to be upset, but I don't care. We had the biggest threats in the NFC, and all of us are in agreement that the 49ers are the biggest threat to the Lions. You have the Rams as one of the biggest threats. Tyler has the Packers as the biggest threat. Me and Mayank have the Eagles. This is where I probably messed up the graphic in the last slide.
Yeah, you got Eagle heavy on the other one.
Yeah, so the biggest threats in the NFC, like I think we're all in agreement who the number one team is. It's obviously the 49ers, and that is the way it is. I put the Eagles simply because I think they're going to be electric on offense with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. And that offense is going to be absolute banana lands. The Rams, I think you're right about the Rams. I think the Rams could be a team that could potentially win the AFC West, because we talked about it pre-show. They are the Detroit Lions, just with the worst defense. And I didn't think we'd be able to say that, but without Aaron Donald, like, that is
just a lot of unknowns on defense, a lot of unknown people that you don't really know who's the starting defense.
Like, I always, people are penning the, they're saying, oh, the Rams defense could be fine. I don't know how you could say that, because when you replace a Hall of Fame guy, it doesn't just happen. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Now
it's gonna take some time.
It can happen, but the reality of the situation is like, who is that guy on that defense right now? Is it Kobe Turner? Is it Byron Young? Is it Braden Fisk? Is it Jake Verse?
It's probably Turner. Turner had a really good year last year with Aaron Donald.
So that's the question. Like, is it going to be the one of those guys, and how productive is he going to be in comparison with Aaron Donald?
Right.
Like, that's the major question. That's kind of the question we're going to get the answer in week 1. There's a lot of questions that are going to be answered week 1 across the NFL.
Sure.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So,
all
right, let's go to the biggest threats in the NFC North, and you have the Bears. We all have the Packers. I know you think I'm wondering because you don't have a high view of Caleb Williams. That's obvious.
Right.
But you had the Bears. So give me your rationale.
Well, it's the defense. I mean, we talk about what Goff has trouble with, aggressive defenses.
Yep.
They have guys that can push the pocket. They have guys that can put a lot of pressure on our tackles. They have good linebackers. They have arguably one of the best cornerbacks in Jalen Johnson. The other guys, we'll see. Brisker is a good safety. They've got aggressive players on defense, and they are not afraid to jam our receivers. They're not afraid to stop the run.
Yep.
Like they can cause a lot of hell. Now I know everybody's picking the Whackers because they feel like that's the biggest threat. But at the end of the day, if you're going to stop Detroit, you're going to stop their offense. Period. And the one team that has the ability to raise hell on our offense is the Bears.
Yeah.
So that's my argument. And if Caleb is anything like what people think he is, that's a scary team.
I get your point. My whole thing about it is the reason. So this is the reason I chose Packers. Obviously, Mayank and Tyler they're gonna have different opinions, but my whole opinion is like, okay, I still think the Packers defense is good. Them getting McKinney was a great signing. Them having Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, Lucas Van Ness, Preston Smith, Quay Walker, if he has his head on straight, he'd be all right. But Jari Alexander, I think they have a good defense too, and I think they can get to the passer too.
But are they better than the Bears?
I mean, how do you quantify the Bears are better? Because I could say, okay, Jari Alexander cancels out.
Well, I would take Sweat over Rashawn Gary. I would take Jalen Johnson over Jair Alexander.
Nah.
I mean, Xavier is better than Brisker. I mean, their linebackers are all better than the Packers linebackers.
Yeah, I could say the Packers linebacker core is not as good as the Bears. I would say overall the Packers defensive line is better than the Chicago Bears defensive line overall, because the Bears don't got a guy in the middle like Kenny Clark. They don't got that guy.
That's fair.
And they don't got the depth like Lucas Van Ness and Preston Smith, and they got some other guys that they've drafted recently that could be pretty good. But I think the Packers are the team that are the talent level they have in the team. It's almost comparable to the Bears because I think these are the two teams that are going to challenge the Detroit Lions. Plain and simple. Like, we could talk about the Packers or who's better, the Packers or the Bears. I think when you just get down to the brass tacks, you go, okay, the Vikings have Sam Darnold started as quarterback. All right, so that's not good. The Bears and the Packers have two upside quarterbacks. We can both say that confidently. I would say the Bears and the Packers have the same running back, basically. I mean, DeAndre Swift is kind of like injured. But
Bears have more of a committee. Packers have one dude that they're going to rely on pretty much.
Well, here's what I say about the Packers. Them missing A.J. Dillon is going to be a huge issue. If Marshawn Lloyd is good, which he's the running back that they selected out of South Carolina, I believe, or is it USC? USC, okay.
USC.
Because they put it USC and it's South Carolina or whatever. Anyway, but DeAndre Swift and Josh Jacobs were two of the worst backs in yards after contact last year.
Right.
So just think about that. So they cancel them out. You go look at the wide receivers. Like I think Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, and
Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen. That's a good group. But then you look at the Packers, and they're all young studs. Like I think Jaden Reed's going to be a stud. I think if Christian, what's his last name? God.
I'll give you Reed and Dobbs. I don't know about the other
Dobbs.
two dudes.
Oh, what Christian Watson? If he has his hamstring on correctly, he could be a good wide receiver too. But I like the Packers tight ends. I do. I think Cole Kmet's pretty good, but Luke Musgrove was a good find last year. Obviously, Sam Laporta was better, and we all know that.
Yeah.
But
Gerald Everett on the Bears too. Don't forget him.
Yeah, and then you look at the offensive lines comparison to each other. Like I would take the Packers offensive line over the Chicago Bears offensive line, just because of the experience factor. We talked about
That's fair.
After, before the show, like the experience of like losing a guy like Jason Kelce is like if we lost Frank Ragnow, it's a huge deal. So I look at the Packers and go, okay, the offensive line's better. It's a draw at running back. The Bears are better wide receiver. Quarterback, I would say Love is better than Caleb Williams because we haven't seen Caleb Williams play a game yet.
Right.
And that's kind of the way I go. So it's just
no, I agree with you. And like I said, I'll keep saying it till it doesn't happen. I think we're going to sweep all these teams because I think that the Lions are just better roster, better coach, better everything, better coordinators, everything. And the expectation is that we should not lose to somebody who's less than we are if we want to go where we want to go, So, but if you're just putting me on whoever, like just pick somebody, I'm going to go with the Bears because like I said, I think the Bears already have a ready-made playoff caliber defense. And if Caleb Williams is even half of what people expect him to be with those receivers, that's a scary thought because if you look at the Bears in the past, everybody's always said, you got a great defense, but who the hell's your quarterback? And this is the year that question might be answered. We will see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think that both these teams, I think they're going to challenge the Lions. Obviously, like these two teams, I think that they have comparable talent, to be honest.
Sure, they're very similar, yeah.
Very similar teams. I think they both have quarterbacks that have a lot of upside, and you don't really know what they could be. Like I know. I thought Jordan Love would be good. Obviously, I knew he was going to sit behind Aaron Rodgers for a couple years, but he's playing pretty well, and so that's all you can hope for.
We'll see. Yeah, he's got to show me more. I have some questions about him as a passer himself. I thought it was interesting that he had to play in preseason. Like you just paid him a big amount of money. Why are you even having to play him in preseason? I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I think the Packers have. We see Patrick Mahomes playing in the preseason, so I don't really take much out of that. But it's kind of like a coaching philosophy kind of thing. So it is
sure.
what it is.
Maybe
let's rifle through these team MVPs and rookie of the year.
Mm-hmm.
For the offensive side of the ball. For the offensive side of the ball, you have Nate. You picked Jahmyr Gibbs.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler picked Amon-Ra St. Brown. Me and Mayank, we picked Jared Goff. Me and Mayank, I think we have a similar brain. It's kind of scary, but it is what it is. On the defensive side of the ball, you had Hutch. Tyler had Hutch. Me and Mayank had Branch. So that's interesting. So what do you think about Gibbs? Like, do you think he's going to have like a really good year? Like, I do think he's going to have a good year. I just think that like a guy like Jared Goff, I think he's going to excel a lot this year with.
Yeah, Jared Goff has every reason to be MVP for this team this year. The thing I look at it is with Gibbs is that Gibbs has a part of his game that Goff doesn't, and that's the ability to not only run the football but catch the football. And when I say that in comparison to Goff, if he was a runner, he would have more running touchdowns and he'd have passing touchdowns. So we can combine all those for more total touchdowns. So with Gibbs, the thought process is that I think Gibbs could easily have 1,500 yards rushing, 10 touchdowns, and over 1,000 yards receiving, because he's going to be a huge mismatch in a lot of situations for the Lions. And I could see a situation where the Lions run more of a 2 running back personnel, because you want to give the defense as much fits as possible and much eye candy as possible to just make their heads explode. Like, that's the one thing with Kyle Shanahan that people love and hate about Kyle Shanahan, is that he's so great at throwing a bunch of eye candy right before the snap.
Yep.
And just imagine, just picture this in your head. You have Amara, you have J-Mo, you have Laporta, you have Gibbs, you have Monty. As a defender, who do you think is going to get the ball?
Oh, Sam Laporta too. I mean, you add in Sam Laporta. I mean, it's like, your comparison with the Rams was very, very smart, because it's the same team except Detroit has a better offensive line. Like, they have 2 good wide receivers. They have a good tight end. They have a good running back. Now, I think Detroit has the better running back tandem, or the better running back depth. But overall, like, you look at those 2 teams, and they're kind of similar in their offense, because both those teams can score. Like, there's a legit playmaking ability from Cooper Kupp to Amon-Ra St. Brown to J-Mo to Puka Nacua, Tyler Higbee to Sam Laporta, which Sam Laporta is way better. But, Jahmyr Gibbs and Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams is one of the most underrated run backs in this league by far.
Really good year last year, for sure.
So, and then you got, Dave Montgomery for Detroit, and Vaki, and you got Blake Corum on that side of for the Rams. So those 2 teams, they have similar kind of players. So it's very, very interesting. So
yeah, and you throw in possibly a Tim Patrick in that situation at some point, that offense just gets even more deadlier. So that's why I say Gibbs, because I think Gibbs is really going to have a fantastic year. I think we just got a taste of it last year.
Yeah,
I mean, the guy had over 1,000 yards, had near 10 touchdowns.
It's a smart pick, because I'll tell you this, Nate. I like Gibbs a lot. I think he's going to be even better this year. I think he's going to push for 1,000 yards rushing, and then what he does receiving is all gravy. And I think he's going to get more receptions this year too. So it's going to be very, very. What I'm interested to see is, come Saturday, what is his receptions in an over/under? That's what I want to know, because if it's anything under 2.5, I'm hitting that. I'm hitting the over. Like, I am hitting the over, because I think that he's going to have an easy day, because the first game against the Rams, this is going to be interesting right here. It's a little bit of prep, but we're kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but we're not skipping ahead. But this just goes to show you that Jahmyr Gibbs could have a big day against the Rams. I mean, they're projected week 1 linebacker core without former Green Dot captain Ernest Jones, Omar Spites, UDFA rookie, Christian Rosebloom, 2023 18.9 missed tackle rate, 89th and 95th out of linebackers. Jake Hummel, 22 UDFA with 45 career snaps. Troy Reader.
Yeah. You took
just a horrible.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth without even showing me that graphic, because I was about to say they just let their best linebacker go, or traded their best linebacker, Ernest Jones. So you don't think Gibbs is going to be like, hey, get me out there in the flank, get me out there on the linebacker?
Like, I think if you're the Lions, you know where you're going. I mean, their whole secondary is.
You're going to attack the middle. You're going to attack the middle. That's what the Lions do.
Their whole secondary is kind of like. We're going to talk about when we get to the game preview, but like their whole secondary is kind of chintzy. So you get to them, you'll be good.
And another reason why I said that Gibbs should be have those kind of numbers is because I don't know if you remember this, but Amon-Ra St. Brown basically told Gibbs that if he has over 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 yards passing, he would give him whatever he wants. You don't think Gibbs knows that, man? Being a rookie and not having a bunch of money, you don't think he's holding that to the fire? And Amon-Ra will do it. I promise you, he will be a man of his word.
It kind of scares me, because what does Amon-Ra know and see in the locker room that we don't see? You know what I'm saying? Because like, it's easy to be like, okay, Jahmyr Gibbs, he's kind of like a happy-go-lucky kind of kid. He really doesn't.
Guy.
Very quiet, very shy. You know what I'm saying? He seems like that kind of guy. And then what he's like in the locker room or what he's like on the field. Like on the field, he's a totally different person. Like you go, who the hell is this guy? Like he just seems like such a nice guy.
Gibbs is the guy who you look at in the locker room and you're like, damn, that guy's gonna turn it up on the field. Like he's just an assassin. Like he's gonna go out there and he's just gonna make you look sick. Like what he kind of reminds me of, and I'm not saying his game is like this, but it's like Barry.
Yeah.
Barry was quiet in the locker room. Barry would sit there in the locker room and just chill out. But man, when he got on the field, he was an assassin. He went out to take everybody's soul away. That's what Gibbs does, man. Gibbs is that quiet guy who everybody says, oh, this guy's not nothing. And then they see him like, damn.
That's stiff arm.
Who woke that guy up?
That stiff arm they had against the Buccaneers where he stiff armed Winfield into the face of the dirt. I was like, oh my God, dude. And he wasn't even trying. It was like just crazy. I would say he's more like Alvin Kamara without the punch to the face. The security guard.
Yeah, he's definitely got a lot of Alvin Kamara in him, and he's just such a versatile piece. Like Ben Johnson is so lucky to have a guy like him because he's never had a running back that could have that kind of speed, ability to catch the ball, the vision, and the strength all in one. Like you have almost a damn near complete back in this.
So the defensive MVPs that we had. Obviously, you had Hutch. Tyler had Hutch. I had Branch. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of these guys. I think these guys are complete studs. Either Hutch or Branch. I think that they're gonna flourish this year.
Actually, I hate to interrupt you. I had BB.
Did you have BB?
I had BB.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it might have been Tyler. I mean, they had Hutch.
Yeah, all right, I love Hutch. Don't get me wrong, but BB is going to be the MVP this year.
All right, when I make the graphic for the page, I'll make sure I correct it. But
yeah, no worries.
But that's I don't see how you can go wrong with either one of these guys. Now, rookie of the year is going to be is funny because me, you, and Mayock have all the same guy. Now Tyler takes Ennis Rakestraw, which
nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. I think
Rakestraw. But he's probably assuming an injury is going to happen. That's only when Rakestraw becomes the starting lineup.
Well, I don't know. I think Rakestraw is going to insert himself in our lineup pretty soon, either as a slot corner or whatever. What he did at Missouri, like if you watch Missouri football, like I know people don't watch Missouri football because it's kind of boring. Like they're a fun team to watch.
They're fun now, yeah.
It's Missouri, so you're not like, oh, it's not LSU, it's not like Alabama, it's not Florida, Georgia, whatever.
Right.
But he played such a good game against Brian Thomas, and he played such a good game against Malik Neighbors, and all these stud wide receivers that he went against. Ricky Purcell, San Francisco, who got shot, but which you'll hope he's okay. But he is the stereotypical Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes type of player. He is the guy that
very aggressive, very, very near the ball, very, very willing to tackle. Yeah. I like Ennis. I've gone on record and said that I don't think the Lions are going to re-sign CD.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you saw Surtain's deal today. He got $24 million a year. CD is not going to get even close to that.
No, I don't. I think the next corner to the top that is going to be Sauce. That's the next corner.
Yeah, exactly. So. But what I'm saying is, like, I don't think we're going to re-sign CD. I think CD came in as a placeholder for Terrian. So next year, Terrian can take that number one CB role, and Ennis is going to slide into that second CB2 role.
The only way I see Davis being here is if he takes like a nice contract that's suitable for the team and everything, which I don't imagine. I imagine someone's going to pay him big bucks because that's the way it goes when you get to free agency. Some team's going to overpay you. I mean, we've seen what the Titans did with L'Jarius Sneed, who I have questions about, especially there's certain issues.
If he's all pro in the Super Bowl, then I won't say nothing.
Right. So he
can write the check whatever he wants if we get to the Super Bowl and we win it all. I don't give a crap.
Yeah, he could do.
Everybody can write their check that year.
After that, you could do whatever you want. I don't care. That's what
exactly. And that's my point. Like that's the only way I'm re-signing CD. If he gets the Super Bowl, we win the Super Bowl. You can write your check whatever you want, bro. If you're all pro, you're good. You're good.
So let's go to the surprise players because I like your surprise player. We're going to talk about that. But
oh, my boy. Yes.
Tyler had Tim Patrick. Mayank had Brennan Joseph, which is an interesting pick. I had Mekhi Wingo because I think he's a stud. I think Mekhi Wingo is the steal of the draft. No doubt about it. I think at some point he's going to play defensive end. And I always tell people, if you are playing on the opposite side of Hutch, your expectation is you get 10 sacks. If you don't get anywhere close to 10 sacks, you're not a good player. You're not a starter. That's my opinion. Because Hutch is such a good player that like the player opposite of him should get more sacks because Hutch is going to be getting a lot of eyeballs towards him. Now it does help.
You push the pocket to Hutch so he can get that sack.
Well, I mean, you have no excuses now that you have Reeder in the middle and Ellie McNeil, so there is no excuses for the opposite end not to have 10 sacks. That's my opinion. If they don't have 10 sacks, we have issues. Like if it's, a lot of people say Davenport. I want to see Davenport stay healthy. If he stays healthy, I think he can get the 10 sacks.
Davenport's going to be a force, man. I'm telling you right now. People are really sniffing on that guy. He played for AG. Dan knows him well. The guy was a physical freak coming out of college at UTSA. Yep. Top 10 pick. This guy has got all the tools to be an elite pass rusher. He's just had injuries hamper him. If the guy's healthy, watch out for this dude. He's already got a hell of a bull rush. Like they asked Decker in the presser, like, what do you think of Davenport? He's like, that guy has a hell of a bull rush. Like you want to hear that from one of your better tackles. Like that's a good sign. That
and the thing about it
to be reckoned with.
And we talked about the Rams. We're going to get to this when we talk about the Rams. But one of the things that I like the matchup is that they don't have Alaric Jackson, which is their starting left tackle for this game. So that's huge. So a guy like Davenport, this is your chance this is your time to shine. Like if you're
gotta eat, man, you gotta eat.
Like you could really inflict some pain on them. So,
sure.
But I'm interested. Why did you pick Vaki?
Okay.
A lot of people they don't really. When draft night happened and we picked Sion Vaki, we traded up from which was just draft day because it was day 3. People were like, "Who the hell is this guy? Why are we trading up for this guy?" And I said,
if you didn't watch Utah football, you know who the hell he was.
Yeah, if you didn't watch, that's exactly it. If you didn't watch Utah football, you would never know who this.
Which you should, because Utah football is pretty damn good every year.
They crank out some dogs, like
they do.
Watching. Remember Dalton Kincaid at Utah? Like that was oh my god.
Johnson.
Oh.
Yeah, they've got some dudes. Yeah,
but yeah, go ahead with your Vaki talk because I'm love it.
So I don't know if you've seen a pattern so far of my picks. Gibbs, Branch, Vaki, all versatile pieces. Yep. All guys you can put anywhere in the game.
Yep.
Literally, and they can play different roles. Vaki is the kind of guy that I think the Lions expected either Kabinda to be or anybody with versatility that they want to put at H-back or even fullback or tight end or whatever. Listen, Vaki is going to be at least a special teams guy for sure. Fipp loves that guy. He will get a lot of special team snaps. But this guy, and I've said this too, that I think that after Craig Reynolds' contract is up, Vaki will assume that RB3 role because he has a higher ceiling and he can do more than Craig Reynolds can.
If he hasn't already.
Yeah, exactly. If he hasn't already. But like this guy, like just watch his tape as a running back. It's impressive. Oh, yeah. Because for a guy who never really played running back, unless he probably played in high school, which I'm pretty sure he had some experience in high school playing running back, his vision, his size, his patience is impressive. And I've seen top running backs struggle with that vision or that ability to cut or that ability to hit the hole and go. He doesn't seem like that type of dude. He seems like a guy who knows what he's doing and he gets it. And I think it helps too that he's been a defensive back too in the past. And so he knows how to read these defenders. He knows what to look for as instincts, being a former defensive player.
Well, that's very interesting you mentioned it because I always say that a guy who really intrigued me in the draft was Mikey Sanderstill.
Yeah.
And Mikey Sanderstill was a former wide receiver. And I'm not a Michigan fan by any stretch of the imagination. I follow him closely because I do my podcast and everything like that. But like
Right.
when you watch Mikey Sanderstill play at Michigan, you could tell that he was a wide receiver because whenever the wide receiver would go up, he'd play the ball. Like just a fantastic player.
Sure.
And I think that when you are a defender or you I always tell people like a wide receiver transitioning to cornerback is easier for them because they know what the wide receivers are doing. They know their body language.
They know what to look for and all that.
They know what to look
right,
for.
exactly.
They know what they know what they're planning. And as a safety, like when you have a running back going at you, Sion Vaki is like saying like, okay, I know that when this guy comes this way, like I can get him this way, or if I make this one cut, he's sunk.
Or he knows to lower his pads if he needs to, so to prevent injury and stuff like that. Like he gets down and he knows where to avoid harm's way. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, exactly. So I talked to someone who played both sides of the ball. Like he played offense and defense, and then he settled on defense in the NFL. But it was interesting because he said, like if he didn't play offense, he would never be the player he was playing defense. And I thought that was so interesting because, a lot of times in little league or high school, they tell these kids, oh, you could play one side of the ball and that's what you're going to do. I mean, you see guys like Travis Hunter and you see guys like Sion Vaki, like
sure,
they have a certain skill set that why not get him on the field? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the way Sion Vaki was at Utah, like if you didn't watch Utah football, you'd be like, who's this guy? But you see him play safety, you see him play running back. He was electric.
He did it on all three facets, man, and he had the total purpose yards. That's what really impressed me when I saw his record. I was like, dang, this guy's just everywhere.
I remember
Brad Holmes even said that.
I remember the game that he had a really good game was USC. And I know USC had a shitty defense last year, and I'm not gonna poo-poo that, but but when I look at what he did, he was just so fluid with his motion and he was so fluid with his cuts. And I think that if you're a third running back, like if that's your third running back, you're living life pretty good. And if Craig Reynolds does become your fourth running back, I mean, is there any 4 running backs in the NFL that are better than the Detroit Lions? No, absolutely not.
Behind that line, you could put anybody behind there and expect them to do well.
And that was the one issue I had last year was like, okay, when Dave Montgomery got hurt and Jahmyr Gibbs got hurt, Craig Reynolds came in. Obviously, Craig Reynolds did an okay job, but I think there was more to be desired, to be honest. And I thought Zonovan Knight getting hurt was just a bad situation. And so
I really hurt a lot. Yeah.
I like Bam Knight, but you need guys, you need depth, especially the running back position because it's an easy position to get hurt at. So that's what I look at. But all right, as we go into this later half of the podcast, let's start talking about the Rams and the Lions. Lions are 3.5 point favorites against the Rams. We talked about Ernest Jones being traded to the who did he get traded to again? God,
Titans.
Oh yeah, the Titans. My pet team. So he gets traded to the Titans, my pet team. Which the Titans, I don't know what the hell they're doing, but Titans
made a lot of moves this offseason, picking up a lot of veteran players. They got Jamal Adams, they got Ernest Jones, they got Snead.
They've made a lot of moves and they've done some pretty good things. But I don't know about you, Nate, but I look at this game and I go, obviously there's 2 offenses that are electric. We have questions on both defenses that are going to be answered or not answered in game 1. What's your rundown of the game real quick?
For me, well, first and foremost, we have to understand that neither team played in preseason their starters.
Yep.
So all tape that each team has is from the playoffs. And so you're going to have a lot of new stuff that both sides haven't seen yet. Because that's just how the NFL works. They're always innovating. They always change things. So I think early on it's going to be a chess match about an adjustments about who does what and how do we adjust. If it's killing us or if it's hurting us, if it's benefiting us, how do we keep doing it? How do we stop it? Stuff like that. So it's going to be a lot of chess matching early on in the game. And rust too, because the Lions, and they didn't play any of their starters. So this is the first time you're getting live reps in a live game that matters. So I'm expecting rust. I'm expecting a chess match between defense and offense, and vice versa. But the one thing that I will be watching very closely is how the secondary plays against Coop, Cup. God, I can't talk today. Cup, Puka. I was thinking of Koopa because I was saying both of Puka and Coop. Cup. So Cup and Puka, and then they also have Demarcus Robinson. They also have Tutu Atwell, and I think they have Higbee back. I think Higbee is back for this game. So how that secondary and really the linebackers, how the secondary and the linebackers fare against all these weapons. Because the thing is that Stafford, I promise you, his first pass will be to Terry and Arnold's side. I promise you.
Oh yeah.
He will baptize Terry and Arnold right off the bat. And he will do it often. And so you've got to see how Terry and Arnold responds and how he plays.
Yep.
And then Carlton will have his share of Puka or Cup, depending on where they line him up. And then you have Meek Robinson, who's going to play the slots. So you have a lot of new pieces in the secondary. So I'm expecting the secondary to struggle because it's a new system, new coach, new players, new positions, and you're going against arguably two of the better receivers in the NFL right off the gun.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. I think the thing about this Rams team is obviously what you said about Stafford testing Arnold early in the game. I think that's definitely going to happen. I do think that the Lions they're going to jump on them really quickly. I think especially since they're at home, they're going to get the early kind of momentum. I do think that the big loss of Ernest Jones will play a factor in this game, especially when you talk about Jahmyr Gibbs coming out of the backfield, Sam Laporta, even St. Brown going up the middle. Alaric Jackson being out the left tackle, that's going to be huge because now you're asking Jonah Jackson, who we know Jonah Jackson as a player, not the best pass protector. Last year he was, I think,
30 games is a strong point.
33% last year. The pressure came from Jackson alone. Obviously, we know Taylor Decker had 37, but that was because he was hurt with a broken foot. So we give him a pass there. But it just goes to show you, like Jonah Jackson, like there's parts of his games that are great, and there's parts of his game that are really, really bad. And so if you're Lions, test that left side, and if DJ Reader can play, even better. But Le'Veon Zerike or Mekhi Wingo or Davenport, like they could have a day, especially on the left side of the line. So I look for the defensive line to eat on Sunday, because I look at the offensive line and I'm like, okay, there's no Larry Jackson. I don't care what you say. Any team that loses their left tackle like a week before game week, it's kind of a rough transition. Like if we lost Taylor Decker like now, not a good situation. You lose him a week ago, still not a good situation. You'd like to hear that suspension was released like maybe midway through the preseason so you can get these guys ready who are going to be playing. But I just look at the Rams and I go, okay, I think they're good on offense. I know they're going to score some points. I think the over-under is 50.5. So can you see a 28-24 game? I could potentially see that. So that's what I look at. And someone in the comments, Tyler, he said, will the Lions cover? And I think the Lions could cover, especially that 3.5. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what it is going into game time, because I think there's a lot of money being hedged against each other right now. If you look on the betting markets, like 50% of the money's on the Rams and 50% of the money's on the Lions for the spread. But then you look at the money line and it's 80% Lions, and a lot of the big money is on the Lions. So that tells you something, and it's kind of like a way to figure it out.
I think it's like more of a statement game for the Lions in a sense, because coming back from the San Francisco debacle, people are expecting this team to be in the Super Bowl this year and win it. And the expectation is that this team should come out and just lay the lumber to the Rams, because no disrespect to Stafford, but I mean, you put pressure on Stafford, he's not a great quarterback. Same thing we can say for Goff. You give him a clean pocket, he'll pick you apart. He did that in the playoffs with us.
And the one thing that I will say about the Rams, in accordance to the Lions rush defense was really good last year. The Rams, when they don't get 100 yards, I think they were like 3-7 last year.
Yeah.
Look for that trend to continue, because the Lions are still going to be good against the run. I have no doubts about that. What they are against the pass, that's the question. That's a question we got to get answered. But I think they're going to be better. That's what I think. So
yeah, and I think taking advantage of that secondary, who's inexperienced and a lot of new pieces, you're gonna see a lot of deep shots early on. So that secondary is going to be tested very quickly.
Joe Austin says the Lions are going to win the easy, is my guess. So look, I think the Lions can win. What's your pick for this game?
Well, I have the Lions winning, of course. I have 31-17. I don't think it's gonna be close.
Okay.
Oh, well, let me say that. Let me say this. I think, like I told you earlier, it's gonna be like a chess match early on. Like they're still gonna fill each other out.
Yeah.
I think at halftime the game probably is pretty close, but I think at when they get into that locker room and Dan has his come to Jesus speech like he always does and wakes them up and fires them up, they're going to come out, and I think you're going to see a flip of the script, because the Achilles heel last year of the Lions was the third quarter. You're terrible in the third quarter. You don't make adjustments. We get our butts beat in the third quarter. I think, if the Lions want to go where they want to go, you have got to step on people's throats and just keep going. And I think that you're going to see a different third quarter Lions. I think that if the game is close in the first half, you're going to see the better team, I can't get the word out, are going to, I can't even say what I'm saying. They're going to kick ass. They're going to kick ass on defense and offense. And that's where I think the Rams are going to struggle, because they know the talent is not on the Lions level. And the Lions know they're the better team. And I tell you what, right now, they're going to run the hell out of the football. Like, everybody wants to see this aerial attack. They're going to get on the ground, put their hands in the dirt, and they're going to run the football down the Rams' throat, left and right.
So here's a stat for you before we start my predictions for the NFL season. I told people I would get to this, and anything that you say, you can buzz in and say what it is. But so 80% of NFL teams that go to the Super Bowl win on week 1. 80%. That's a good barometer of, are you going to be a Super Bowl team? Whatever. That's a good percentile. We have 50 Super Bowls plus of a track record, and it's 80% win week 1. That's
however, the Chiefs didn't. We beat them.
Yeah, they were one of them. So we broke a trend. They broke a trend. And that's how it is. So let me.
But it makes sense. Yeah.
Let me get to this. This is going to be. Anytime you feel the buzz in. So my NFC playoff teams, I got the Lions, the number 1 overall seed. I got them at 12-5. I think that 12 wins is going to be the top of the NFC. I think the NFC is loaded, and I think there's a lot of parity in the NFC. So I got the Eagles 2, 49ers 3, Buccaneers 4, Falcons 5, 6. I got the Rams 7. I got the Green Bay Packers. I don't got the Cowboys in the playoffs, and I don't got the Bears in the playoffs.
I'm a little confused, because you talked about the Packers being the biggest threat, but you have them at 7.
Well, I think the Rams are better. I think the Falcons are better. I think the Buccaneers are better. But they're not. Buccaneers aren't better. But I think the Packers playing in the NFC North, I think that plays a factor, because you're going to lose games in the NFC North. That's just the way I feel.
How many wins do you have the Packers having this year?
10, maybe 9.
Okay.
I think I got them at 9.
Okay.
And I think I got the Bears at 8 wins. So that's how close I got it. And I think I got the Vikings at 7 wins. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that's what it is. So let's go to the AFC. 1 is the Chiefs. I got the Chiefs. 2 is Texans. 3 is the Ravens. 4 is the Bills. 5 is the Bengals. 6 is the Jets. 7 is the Chargers. Got any questions there?
I don't agree with the Buffalo Bills. I think the Buffalo Bills are going to take a step back. I really do.
Here's the question. Are the Dolphins going to take that step up? Because we know that they can't win.
Well, they should. They should. I mean, if they want to, if Tua wants his money, he better step up. The defense they're going to get back Chubb. You know, they've
The
got
Dolphins, the
Phillips.
the issue I have with the Dolphins is they can't play in cold weather and they play in NFC East. That's a problem. So
Yeah,
that's why I have them. I think the Jets are going to be good. I just think the Bills having Josh Allen. I think Khalil Shakur is kind of like the underrated kind of wide receiver this year. If you're looking for
Shakur, yeah,
fancy, I think he's
yeah.
a good player. I think the Chargers will get in. I think the Bills. Anytime you have Josh Allen, you're going to be all golden. So let's go to the wild card. Wild card, I got the Packers and the Eagles playing each other.
Game one.
Rams 49ers, Buccaneers, and the Falcons. That's NFC South matchup, NFC West matchup. That's pretty interesting. On the AFC side, you got the Texans versus the Chargers, Ravens versus the Jets, Bills against the Bengals. We go to divisional weekend, and this is where it gets very, very interesting for that. I got the Eagles. I got the Eagles losing the Packers.
Woo. Damn, that would be a great divisional game in Detroit.
I got the Falcons beating the Buccaneers. Obviously, the 49ers are going to beat the I think they played the Rams. And then you got the
Joey
Bengals.
Burrow and Mahomes again.
Yeah.
Right. I like it.
That's what I got in the Ravens and the Texans against each other. So
the Falcons and Niners an interesting matchup because I that's a horrible matchup for the Falcons.
Oh, it's a horrible matchup for the Falcons. So
yeah.
It's funny because you think about it like the Falcons are like they have a good team, but them getting Judon, I think Bijan's going to be good. Kyle Pitts got hurt with the hamstring, so
they loaded up their defense. Their defense with Bates and Judon, and they got Terrell.
Simmons. So they're going to be good.
Yeah.
So we go into championship weekend. I got the Lions beating the Packers. I got the Chiefs beating the Bengals. Texans beating the Ravens. 49ers beating the Falcons. So I don't think anybody's going to have an issue with that, especially Lions fans. I think Packer fans will have an issue. I know one of them is watching, so screw you. And
hey, it's our house, man. I mean, all bets are off. You know, like I think we could have beat them last year if they would have beat the Niners. I would have loved to have a third home game in Detroit. You don't think we would have beat the Packers in our own house?
I think Detroit
after they whooped our butt in Thanksgiving. Come on.
I'll say this: I think the Lions are going to lose all 5 games that I have them losing on the road. Put it that way. So we go to obviously this is the championship weekend. Who would you pick out of these 4 for the Super Bowl?
Oh, Detroit, of course. I mean, we're the better team.
All right.
And we're finally going to get over listen, we're going to beat the 49ers before this even happens. Like, so by the time if we play them again, hopefully we don't, but we play them again in our house, it's done deal.
It's lights out. My Super Bowl matchup is Lions versus Texans. That's why
a lot of people have the Texans. A lot of people have the Texans.
I say the Texans because of 2 reasons. And look, I'm on a streak right now. I'm trying to get this correct. So I put a lot of hard work into this, and I thought, why am I picking the Lions and Texans? Texans have a better defense. They got way better with Danico Autry. With Will Anderson's going to be in year 2.
Mm-hmm.
They added some talent to Hunter, Daniil Hunter, Danico Autry. They got some talent there. The Lions added talent with Terrion Arnold, Brian Branch going to his 2nd year. Mm-hmm. Jack Campbell's 2nd year. Hutch is going to be a different player, I think, entering his 3rd year. So I think that's why I say it. Now, when you look at the Lions and Texans, I think if you looked at it from a Super Bowl matchup, the one thing that decides this is who's been in that game before. It's Jared Goff. Mm-hmm. Now, I got some comments. I want to get this.
It's a good point. Yeah, I agree.
So I look at it like this. Lions have Jared Goff. Jared Goff has been there before. CJ Stroud hasn't. And I love CJ Stroud. I think he's a damn good quarterback. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks to come out in his rookie year in a long time. I don't think he has it in him to beat the Lions in the Super Bowl. So I have the Lions win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I'm not
Yeah.
being a homer. I'm not being a homer at all. Like
Dude, everybody's got the Lions with the Super Bowl. And
every
maybe back in the day it was homerism, but now it's just reality. Like
well
this is the
every
lay of the
every
land now.
every year I try to break it down for people why I think the Lions are a good team. So I did a roster breakdown of the Lions like I usually do, and you go, I got a B plus for the quarterback position because Hendon Hooker hasn't played a meaningful snap in the start. So I kind of downgrade that. I rate the running backs as an A. Wide receivers is a B plus because Amon-Ra is elite wide receiver.
Yeah.
Tight ends, I got an A. I think Brock Wright's one of the best tight ends, backup tight ends in this league. You look at the offense.
Now.
You look at the offensive line, A across the board, not just because of the talent, but because of the coaching. You look at the defensive line. I rated a B minus because I don't know who's going to be
could be A depending
could be an A but I don't know who's going to be on the opposite side of Hutch and who's going to be the lead dog there. Is it going to be Pascal? Is it going to be Davenport? Who's going to be that lead dog? But I think DJ Reader being added to Lee McNeil and Hutch, I think that's a 3-team tandem that a lot of teams wish they had.
Right.
You go to the linebacker position. Anzalone is a good linebacker. Derek Barnes is a good linebacker.
Solid B.
Jack Campbell is a good linebacker. I think he's only going to get better. If he gets better in pass coverage,
that could be an A.
It's over. It's A. And then you look at the safeties, like Ife Melifonwu is a backup. Think about that. A backup safety who could start on many teams is a backup. Brennan Joseph is a good linebacker. He could start on many teams. He's a backup. So I look at that and I go, okay, that's an A. Cornerback, I think B plus, whatever. I think Jay Bates being the kicker, that's the questionable mark right there because we don't know what he's going to be.
B minus.
I have good faith in him. And then
Jack Fox makes it a B minus.
Jack Fox is one of the best punters in the league.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's close. Like Tommy Townsend and Jack Fox, and then I forget who the Ravens punter is, but he's pretty damn good too. And the Ravens have a good special teams too. But every way I went around it, man, like there was nothing that I seen that I was like, that could be the issue. Like obviously every team has issues, but if you're talking about the Lions, as their third wide receiver is the questionable mark, you're a good team. Like you are an elite team because
you're nitpicking the roster.
If you're nitpicking the roster to be like, oh, I don't like that, I don't like this. Like, how many times have we gone into a season? Like, just think about it like this: if you're the Eagles, you're going into the season without Jason Kelce. Is that a question mark? Yes. Is your cornerbacks a question mark? Yes. Even though you
new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, yes,
exactly. Adding Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, is that a question mark? Potentially, maybe, perhaps, all that, whatever. And then you look at, teams like the 49ers. What's their question mark? Their question mark is probably like maybe
age,
yeah, like health. Does their health?
Purdy is he going to take another step forward? Is he going to be that guy? Is Ayuk going to live up to the money you paid him? And
is Trent Williams going to stay healthy? He gets hurt. He gets dinged up once a year. Christian McCaffrey gets dinged up yeah. So you're kind of reliant on those two guys because after Christian McCaffrey, that running back room drops off. And I think with the 49ers, when they lose Kittle, Williams, or Debo, they struggle immensely. So that's what you look at. And obviously
they're very reliant on those players. Heavily.
Obviously, that could be any team. But I just look at this Lions team, man. I just think that there's not many holes that I see. When I graded the roster, they ranked right up there with the Eagles. They ranked right up there with the 49ers. They ranked right up there with the Ravens. And I just said, there's no way if they get the first seed, which I think they can get the first seed, and I think they will. If they get the first seed, it's over. Because there's a lot of teams that are going to come into Detroit, and they're not going to expect what's happening in Detroit. It's probably one of the best home field advantages in football. Like let's just put it out there. One of the best home field advantages in football, and that is my bold opinion.
I'll go a step farther and add something to the equation. What team has had their offensive coordinator in the same system for 3 years and had their defensive coordinator in the same system for 4 years?
Yeah,
not very many teams. And that's a huge part of why people are picking the Lions to go all the way. because when you have an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator for that long of time, they're not teaching the players anything that they don't already know. They're
Yep.
really opening up the nuances of what they were hired to do. Like, you're going to see AG implement creativity that you've never seen before, because now he's got the cornerbacks to match what he wants to do. He's got the guys at the linebacker. He's got his D line who's going to be raise havoc with Coach T's teachings. And then on the other side with Ben Johnson's got so many toys to play with and so many ways to just make defenses' heads spin by all the combinations he's going to roll out there.
Yeah.
So you're going to see both of these coordinators coach in a way that you haven't seen before, because they have the full arsenal at their disposal.
So we get to the bold predictions for you guys. For Nate, you have J-Mo wins comeback player of the year. Tyler has Goff NFL MVP. Mark Mayock has J-Mo 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. I
don't know if that's a bold prediction for J-Mo. I mean, I think that's very. I mean, 10 touchdowns might be a little bold, but
I think it's a bold. I think everyone
can hit 1,000 yards. There's no doubt about that.
I think every one of those is bold, but I think if he's going to come back of the year, he's got to do the 1,000 yards, and even then it's a little bit shy. But Joe makes a good comment in the comment section. He says the Lions were a cleaf shy of a Super Bowl last year. He catches one of those Reynolds drops, and then he says something that I think I can answer right here. How much of the Johnson offense is Campbell? From what I've heard, this is Campbell's offense. Ben Johnson just calls the plays. That's what I've heard. So we know Ben Johnson's a good offensive coordinator, but this is, if you look back when Dan Campbell took the reins over, that's the same offense that he has. It's just got some wrinkles in it.
I think I never thought of it that way. I think that Dan Campbell does a great job of empowering whoever is on his staff. And I think for the longest time, when Ben Johnson knew what he could do, he's like, Ben, you run what, you base it on the run game. You base it on our lines.
Yeah.
And that's a given, because Ben Johnson is a former tight end coach. So he understands the importance of the line. He understands the importance of the run game. So they're very similar in those aspects. But I think the creativity comes from either him, Ben Johnson, we're talking, or even the passing coordinator that they've had in the past, or who they have now, because I think that's a lot of creativity that they combine together. And then, I think same thing with AG. I think that now that AG has his players, I think Dan Campbell's going to be more hands off with the defense himself.
Yep.
I think this is the year that not only do we see the real coordinators really show their stuff, but you're going to see Dan Campbell be a coach more so than you've seen before, because I think he trusts both his coordinators now to do their job. And Dan Campbell is just going to be the top of the ticket. He's going to be the one that oversees everything. But he trusts AG. He trusts Ben Johnson to do what they're paid to do.
So that's what we have. A good season preview podcast. If you missed any part of the episode, I'll leave this up here again. You can follow the podcast anywhere. Me and Nate had a good conversations. Obviously, if you missed it, if you were just tuning in late, really late, I have the Texans and Lions in the Super Bowl, and I have the Lions winning the Super Bowl. So that's my prediction. I know I've been on the money for a lot. I'll take this one. And
that's impressive.
The last time I want to be right, I'll take it. Because I'm running on a streak, and I want to win some money, because I put the Lions down as a bet. So I'm trying to buy a house. Let's go. So, anyways, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Nate, for coming back on. We'll have you on again. We'll have you on again.
Yeah, enjoyed it, man.
I'm planning on doing a podcast after the Lions-Rams game. If I go to the game, it might be a little late. I might do it on Monday morning, maybe. So we'll figure it out. But thank you guys for watching. and thank you for listening. If you're on Apple, Spotify, or anything. Coming up next on the Detroit Lions News podcast is Darcy with the Detroit Lions News show with John Macaroon. So you guys can watch that. But we have one last comment I wanted to get to. He said, "Thanks, guys. Glad I found you. I'm glad that you listened. Thank you for listening, and thanks, Nate, for coming on. And
yeah, always, man.
Obviously, he has a Detroit Dln 313 podcast, but they're rebranding, and we'll let you know what their podcast is rebranded about. And I'll talk to you soon, Nate, and we'll get to chopping that bread. But thanks for everyone for watching, and let's go Lions. We got a big game.
Go Lions.